Call to order tonight's meeting of the Hudson School Board. Please stand for the pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda today is recognitions for fall athletics with Tim Chuckle.
Good evening. Testing. Good evening. Members of the Hudson High School Captain's Council are here tonight to share the accomplishments and highlights from their fall seasons. Students have demonstrated not only excellence in competition, but also leadership, teamwork, and dedication in the classroom and throughout our community. Tonight, we look forward to celebrating their hard work and the collective spirit that represents the Raider Nation.
I'm Cy. I'm a senior. I'm TJ Pennycook, and I'm a senior.
And I'm Ryan. I'm a junior.
Our season it was really good. We started out and we pulled in the biggest freshman class we've ever had, actually, I think. So it was a great start, and we really built good team chemistry right from the get-go in the summer. We had our summer practices every day and really got the guys running and really moving our way because we had the end goal in sight, which was state, obviously, and that's kind of how things went. We kind of moved our way up. But then, first race, it wasn't quite ideal. We started out unranked, but we knew the work we put in was definitely more than enough. So as the season went on, we climbed our way back up into ranked territory, and then we ended up taking the 8th ranked spot by the time we got to sectionals, and that's where we ended up qualifying for state at sectionals, which only the top 2 teams advanced. So we had to beat out teams we were losing to from the start of the season, and that was really good to see as a team. We really pushed through a lot of the struggles that we had as a team, even though we had some downs and ups, or some big downs. We really developed the team from the start. And we had our spaghetti dinners where we played games and just got together. That helped a lot too, just to really bring a good team chemistry in. And yeah, it just really helped us out in our success.
All right, and then our first championship race was conference, where we raced conference on Rice Lake, which was a course that we ran prior to the season. And it was really cool because we had every single person but one, I think, PR. So it just kind of showed how much we grew throughout the season, as well as taking home 2 first-team all-conferences, and then 1 second team and 2 honorable mentions.
And then going into championship season, it was time for sectionals. And as I commented earlier, our first race, we were kind of low in the rankings, and we didn't really know if we could qualify as a team. But throughout the season, we kind of worked hard, progressed, and were able to qualify for state. And then that was a great experience for all the young guys to make it to state. And then as a team, we placed 9th, which was much better than our previous standings in the beginning of the year. And Ryan took 3rd as an individual, which was really impressive for him.
Okay, congratulations.
I'm Abby. I'm Olivia. Oh. I'm also Olivia. I'm Cora. We had a growth in our freshman enrollment from 2 last year to 7 this year. We strive to have a much better team environment because last year we noticed there was a lot of, you could almost say, cliques on the team. And this year we worked on having just one big cohesive team, and we did accomplish that.
And then to work on that, inclusivity on the team, we noticed, the team bonding that we had really helped. So through that was, our Fun Fridays Fun Fridays in the summer, and just our spaghetti dinners with the team. We connected with the boys team really well this year. And, yeah.
At our home meet, we did win. We got first, and multiple of the top 10 from all the grade levels medaled and got in the top 10. We had a spread between our 1st and 7th runner, and it shrunk from last year to this year. In 2024, our average sectional time was 20 minutes and 24 seconds, and we had a spread from our 1st to 5th runner of 2 minutes and 13 seconds, and we only had 3 girls that could run a 5K in under 21 minutes.
And then to improve to this year at the same course, sectional race, our average time went to 2018 with a spread of 39 seconds to our first and fifth runner, and we had 6 girls under 21.
And also at conference, one of our girls won the all-conference award for JV.
Our top 6 runners all placed at conference.
Thank you.
I'm Kale.
I'm Cooper.
This year, we started the season off with 5 straight wins. That mainly developed from our summer practices and team workouts throughout the summer, from our mini camp to our first fall camp. And we took that into our season to start off, like I said, strong. We finished our season with a 7-2 record, splitting our last 4 games. Late in the season, we battled through some team adversity, but we came together back as a team and battled back to win our first playoff game in 3 years.
Some accomplishments we had is we were 7-2 as a record. We won our first playoff game in 3 years, beating Sun Prairie, then lost in the second round by 3 points. And we also had 14 all-conference players.
All right, thank you very much.
I'm Lily, I'm a junior.
I'm Maddie, I'm a senior.
During the 2025 season, we've had many accomplishments. We started this season with 3 parades, and for the first time ever, we completed half of our show, The Sundial, at Symposium, the week of band camp spent at UW Stevens Point in July.
We attended and performed at 4 home football games, including the breast cancer awareness pink out game. For this game, the marching band raised enough money to dress the full marching band and staff in the Tackle for a Cure pink t-shirts. We also were able to make a huge donation to the Rhinos Foundation.
All the staff members have made such a huge impact on us and other members of the band. With the addition of Miss Bergstrom to the band program this season, there's been huge improvements to this program, and we want to continue having her next year, hopefully in a full-time position.
Lastly, this year we've had the largest marching band we've ever had with over 100 members, and we expect to continue to grow the marching band in the years to come. Our staff gives us the direction, but the heart comes from the students. And we are so proud to be a part of this band. Thank you.
I'm Calvin. I'm a junior.
I'm Jack. I'm a senior.
And I'm Clint. I'm a senior. To start off the season, we had a ton of captain's practices throughout the summer to kind of meet the guys and get some chemistry before the season. And then it's jumping into the games. Our first game, we didn't do very well. The second game, we didn't do very well, but they were just scrimmages. They weren't actual real games. And then our first game, we tied against Eastridge, and we kind of found ourselves there. And then on, we were undefeated throughout the entire season, and we built a lot of chemistry throughout all those games.
Some accomplishments: we were regional champs, sectional champs. We beat Hortonville in a penalty shootout. We were state qualifiers, where we went to state and lost to Marquette. We had an undefeated record and 8 all-conference players.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm a junior.
I'm Anna. I'm a senior.
We had around 38 girls try out for tennis this year, 14 are on varsity and 24 on JV. And we tried to focus in on our team values, trust, believe, respect, compete, and have fun. And that kind of built off into making our poster phrase, win from within, because we really wanted to focus in on like the mental game of tennis, because that's something a lot of people forget about. And like, I think halfway through the season, we did this like post-it note activity where you were assigned a random person and you had to write something positive about them for the whole week. And that really helped bring up our team chemistry and positivity all around.
Our accomplishments for the season, our record was 16-4. We placed second in conference, just a few points short from LeClaire Memorial. We placed second in sectionals, also a few points short from LeClaire Memorial. 2 flights qualified for state, 1 doubles and 1 singles, or 1 doubles Sophia and Avery, and 1 singles Anna. All players were eligible, qualified for academic all-conference, and we were seven all-conference winners.
And then also the JV had a record of 9-6, and they also placed second in conference.
Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Jillian White. I'm a senior.
My name is Mallory Zifko, and I'm a junior. This season, our girls swim and dive team found a lot of success both in and outside of the pool. And we start our season very early. It's the beginning of August, so we did a lot of captain's practices throughout that month and a few other like team bonding activities. We went to the farmers market together. We did a hike at Willow River. We have the tradition of like Big Littles, so we went through assigning Big Little as kind of like a sorority, so you get paired up for meets, and that was very fun. We participated in our first ever breast cancer awareness donation meet with River Falls, thanks to senior Elise Gulick on the team. We added a few new traditions, so we did a little activity with like paper bags with notes of encouragement for different lane assignments. We also did spaghetti dinners at like girls' houses, so that was really nice to have like somewhere cozy to eat instead of the middle school. We also created our first team run or captain ran social media page, which swimming doesn't really get a ton of awareness, so we wanted to kind of bring up the like excitement around it. And then I'll let Jillian do accomplishments.
Yeah, so we had 12 new team members between freshmen and then new sophomores and swimmers and divers. We went undefeated in the regular season, and then we also won the Simley and Border Battle invites. We were conference championship champions by over 200 points. We had 6 first team individuals all conference, which means they won their race at conference. We had 3 relays, win first team all conference, 6 individuals and relays get second team all conference, 5 individuals get honorable mention, and then we were sectional champions. We had 2 events where Mallory won, and she got qualified for state through that, and then we had 2 sectional runner-ups, and we have 4 individual state qualifiers and 2 relay state qualifiers. And then it was a great season. We had a lot of team bonding, and I thought we had a good time.
I'm Ava, and I'm a sophomore. I'm Caroline, and I'm a senior. So this season we had around 40 girls try out for golf, 6 on varsity, 2 of which are returners, 6 on JV, and around 30 on JV2. This year was really fun. We quickly built new friendships, both on and off the course, building a strong and supportive team. Next year we have 4 girls returning, so we're excited and looking forward to another good season.
Some of the accomplishments we had was we won conference as a team, barely made it to sectionals with 4th place at regionals, but then we won sectionals to advance to state. 3 of our 6 players made an all-conference team, Ava and Lydia with first team all-conference and Ava player of the year. Amelia had an honorable mention, and then also all 6 of us made academic all-conference, and Ava 3rd team all-state. We finished the season and placed 11th at state, and also our JV won majority of their matches.
Congratulations. Anybody have any comments? Volleyball? No volleyball. Okay. So that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming out tonight on this cold night to say hi to us and give us that information. Good job, and congratulations to everyone. Oh, Molly.
Can I say something? Yeah, I'm always so impressed with the teams when you come in, individual sports, team sports. It doesn't always go as well as you planned, but I so appreciate that all of you are working to build a great culture and making friends, and it isn't all about winning, but winning is awesome too. You know, it's like we like it, right? But I'm super proud of all of you, and I hope you're proud of yourself. Good job.
Maria, nothing about marching band? Come on, we have a marching band parent here.
I'll say a little something about marching band. Good job, guys. Watched you guys throughout the season really work hard late into the evening. So really, really impressed with your show this year and looking forward to next year's. But also just say for all of the teams, I know the dedication that you guys put into each of your sports and your activities, working hard from right after school, sometimes till 9, 10 o'clock at night, working on your sport, getting together on the weekends, working in the off season. That takes dedication, but it also takes you guys working as a team. I've seen a few of these teams front and center and activities, what you guys do to cultivate a team and a culture of anybody can come and belong and be welcoming. I keep doing that. That is the ethos of Hudson, and please continue to welcome anybody who wants to join your team. You can't go wrong with that. So kudos to all of you, and girls swimming and diving, good luck at stake.
Thank you, Tim.
You guys can escape. You don't
Yes. Okay, next up, we have citizens' request to speak. We have 5. We'll read them off. Okay, 5, we'll do 2 minutes each. And before we start, I'll read our statement. Public comment is for input only. It is not a question-answer session or time for debate or a dialogue session. Members of the school board will not respond directly to public comments that are made at this meeting. No specific action will be taken at this meeting in response to comments that are made or issues that are raised. During the public comment period, if the board determines that action is appropriate, the action will occur at a future board meeting. A district representative may follow up with you after the meeting. The board chair will recognize one speaker at a time. Only those speakers who are recognized will be permitted to speak. Individuals who interfere with or interrupt speakers, the board, or the proceedings may be directed to leave. Personal attacks on any individual, including any other speaker, during the public comment session are unacceptable, as are obscenities or profanity. Persistence in making such remarks will end the individual's opportunity to address the board and may result in the individual being directed to leave. Thank you very much, and we'll start out with Richard Thompson.
Speak about, but as long as I'm here for the athletic thing, I thought I'd make a statement. Having been on some boards in the past, and unfortunately I know I'm being televised, so yeah, I'll be careful how I say this. But the bottom line is, the decision's already been made apparently to close the 2 schools. So there's nothing I'm gonna say here that's gonna change it, other than I just wanna tell you the perception is not good. I mean, quite honestly, a few years ago you came out and said we need money to build a school, enrollment's going up. Now all of a sudden, we need to close 2 schools, enrollment's going down, and we're gonna save this money, but there was really never a good published analysis of how much money you were gonna save and how much you're gonna add for buses, and is it really gonna pay off? And then, in 5 years or 10 years, are you gonna ask to build another school because enrollment goes back up? The perception out there, quite honestly, folks, is that we just wanna close the old schools and build new schools, and I don't know if people are willing to tell you that. But I'm just telling you, that's the perception. It's not really good,
Thank you, Richard. Next up is John Dolan.
Got the timer. Good evening, board members. It's good to see you all again. I'm here speaking on behalf of hundreds of others, district parents and employees, alumni, community members, finance professionals, teachers, archers, scientists, and polar dog sled drivers. We have been trying to work together with you for months to find ways to solve the budget problems that the district is facing. We have collectively spent thousands of labor hours going through the hundreds of pages of documents that span more than 4 years to understand the details. We've learned a lot, asked hundreds of clarifying questions, and found many unanswered points that would likely change the decision you made on October 13th. We have requested multiple times to the board and the district to not rush this decision of closure. Instead, form a community group with a specific purpose and a deadline to present options to the board of what it would take to keep our neighborhood schools alive. To date, I've seen no response to this request nor any real effort to work with the community to find solutions to our problems together. As a result, we're taking the formal step to demand your attention so we can work with you to solve this problem as a team. We are in the process of commencing formal legal action against the district with our attorneys who are here tonight. The legal timeline for your response will start when it is officially delivered to all of you. We don't want this decision done to us. We want to be part of this and work with you to solve the problem together using the most updated and complete data available and take our best shot to save our neighborhood schools. We don't have to rush. We have a referendum that passed in the spring to give us the financial buffer to take the time we need to make the best decision that we can. Let's work together to fix the errors, analyze all of the costs, propose innovative ideas, and make the best decision we can for the future of our community together.
Thank you. Danielle Sampson.
I was worried that was going to happen. In the Applied Population Enrollment Study from 2022, the section on birth trends and projections shows a projected decline in birth rates from 2020 to 2026. However, more recent data available from the same source used in that projection suggests that 2020 was actually the low point and that birth numbers have since rebounded. 2020 is part of this year's kindergarten class. I recognize that birth rates and population estimates are only one factor in the decision to close 2 of our elementary schools. Still, they've been repeatedly referenced in board discussions and public materials. In the document that was put out after the community meeting in September, the district emphasized 3 separate times that it was working with a demographer to ensure accurate and up-to-date data, acknowledging that best available information was essential for informed decision-making. Yet that updated information was not available at the time of the vote. Given that both the board and the public expected these updated projections, it's important to understand why they were not included. If the numbers have changed, the context for the discussion has changed as well. My question is simply, why was the vote held before this updated information was shared, especially when it was previously described as crucial to making the best possible decision?
Thank you. Scott Ellingson. Scott? Oh, wait. Oh, Lisa Wolf is next. I'm sorry.
Hi, guys. I'm here to express my disappointment on the record. On October 13th, the board voted for options that were not clearly and thoroughly evaluated. I asked Nick for the source data, and he refused to provide it to me. I also asked each and every board member where these numbers came from for the options, that is, and they told me simply, Nick came up with them. This shows complete lack of due diligence and, in fact, negligence. I have multiple board members telling me in writing that they just don't have the bandwidth or don't have the time. This is inappropriate. We need to evaluate these options more fully. I provided a 5-school redistricted model that had robust savings that not one person commented on at the meeting. Granted, I know that these public comments are not meant for you to comment on immediately, but I did send it in an email prior and only had 1 response about that email. The numbers provided by Nick showed option 1 with 0 savings. This negated any sort of potential redistricting and redistribution of students, which would have resulted in fewer full-time equivalents being needed. Therefore, potential savings were not calculated in what could have been with that option one. We weren't comparing apples to apples, okay? Option one, 0 savings, no redistricting. The other options had redistricting and redistribution in them. All of the alleged savings in the options promoted by Nick came from firing full-time equivalents. The actual cost operationally to keep Holton open is $45,000 a year, according to your own numbers. Empty classrooms, which has been the narrative pushed by Nick, is not what costs the district money. Rather, it is underutilized teachers. Redistricting and redistribution of students is what will save this district money, not closure of brick and mortar. I guess my time is up, so I'll be back next time. Thanks.
Scott Ellingson.
With all the sports going on, I was blessed to be with the soccer team in Milwaukee for their state tournament. That was pretty fun. So, but on to business here. In my letter to all of you on October 27th, I talked about my concern about the optics of multi-million-dollar surplus budgets for the next 2 years while closing both schools. Using district numbers, I shared a plan with you for how one of the schools could remain open until at least 2030 without negatively impacting district priorities with class size, staff retention, attraction, and programs. Please reconsider, and you could still work with the same subcommittees you discussed at your last board meeting. A quick aside, based on some of the discussion about a possible charter school, inspired some thoughts of a possible Spanish immersion track in one of our elementary schools that could help attract new students and families to our district. That all being said, as a community, we need to move forward, heal, forgive, model to our children how we deal with life's disappointments, come together and find positive ways to seek the silver lining that is Hudson Public Schools. That's been in the paper a couple times. In my mind, despite the difference of opinion, I believe that you are a very strong school board looking out for our students' best interests. I do not support a recall for any of you. Let's put our energy into making this difficult transition as positive as possible. Thank you all for all that you do, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, now we're moving on to reports. We're going to start with response to public inquiries related to special education and construction.
All right, I'll turn it over to Tara and Bonnie related to special education.
You bet. I'll start with a couple wonders we have in the special education world. One of the first wonders is what's happened at the federal level with the Office of Special Education Programs. That office, from our understanding, we have about 90% of their staff laid off at the federal level. What does that mean for us here in Hudson? The federal level gives us about $1.1 million a year in terms of our special education funding for our grant, and that money we've received this year. And that's about all that happens at the federal level for us. In terms of parents' rights and students' rights, all of that is done through the state level, through DPI, so all those protections are still in place. Any kind of due process, state complaints are all handled at DPI. I think an important piece to note is IDA hasn't changed. We are still legally required to provide all of those services for whatever student walks in our door with an IEP, and that doesn't change regardless of what's happening at the federal level. The states manage, like I said, 99% of what we do on the daily basis. All that happens at that federal level for us is, I imagine someone's hitting a button somewhere, so that 1.1 million shows up in our grant dollars. Bonnie's gonna explain a little bit more about special education costs, and then I'll talk about another piece with special education.
Yeah, so there was a request to pull some historical data on the special education expenses with the Hudson School District. So if you look at the chart, the first column is an inclusive expenses of what we spend in Fund 27, which is specifically special education costs. So last year, I went through last year because that's an audited report in full year. So we spent about $14.4 million in special education. Our special education aid is set at the state level, and it's a percentage that they base on your previous year's expenses. So last year, the aid percent was 29.16%. Special education categorical aid, what that calculates out to is about $3.6 million. The flow-through aid, which Tara just talked about, that's a grant, and there's a description we put in the notes. It's just an entitlement that's given specifically for special education. It was approximately $1 million. And then that last column, I believe there was a comment about the $8 million that wasn't accounted for. So the district has to take money from our Fund 10 operating budget and transfer it to special education to make it a zero budget. So last year we transferred from Fund 10 about $9.4 million to make that transfer, make it cost neutral. This year it will be less because the state increased that percentage, so into the 40% range. But we just wanted to give you some historical perspective because there seemed to be some questions about that.
Mr. President? And Bonnie, I might botch the way I say this, so please correct me.
Sure.
But the Fund 10, just because there's a lot of different funds in K-12, is our general education fund.
Correct.
Which we get from our per pupil revenue. So it's coming from money that in theory could be spent on anything within our educational process, and then it's moved over into special ed, so we have enough money to cover all those costs.
And the majority of funding in Fund 10 is our local tax levy and our state equalization aid. Those are the biggest components of that.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Yep.
I'm going to talk about the second piece with special education, and a lot of worry on transitioning. We'll be moving from 6 buildings to 4 buildings. How are we going to support our students with disabilities transitioning from building to building? One thing we are very familiar with in the special education world is transitions. We already do transitions from 4K to elementary. We do transitions from elementary to middle, middle to high, and we even do high school onto the transition program for our 18 to 21 population. Students with disabilities are able to stay in school until their 22nd birthday. And so it's something we're already very familiar with. We'll take what we're already doing in supporting those students and apply it to the boundary situation. One thing to remember is all of our buildings support all of our students, whoever's walking through the door with the IEP. We have a whole continuum of services in every building. So if it's a student who needs just support in the general education setting, all the way to the other end of the continuum where we have a student with a disability who may be in a special ed classroom all day. And that's housed in all of our buildings and will continue to be the same.
Mr. President?
Yes, ma'am.
So I got a question, Tara, from somebody asking just a little bit more details with the transition. I think for folks who have kids in K through 5, they haven't gone through the transitions yet, if they don't have older kids who have needed that. So the person asked, if my child is moving to another school and they have a new case manager, will there be meetings with their current case manager and their new case manager, maybe I'm not saying it right, and the family to make sure that transition is smooth?
We may not be able to do transitions with families. We're looking at over 700 students, and that would be 700 meetings with families. But we do always do case manager to case manager. There are certain situations where we know that students may be more involved in a variety of services, that families do come on board for those, but I'd say for the majority, it's case manager to case manager.
Thank you.
You bet.
Just the other one we had related to construction that keeps coming up, related to the EP Rock letters outside the media center. There's a lot of stuff out there saying that we paid $75,000 for those letters. So we had our construction manager dig into it. We had a bid alternate, it's called alternate number 7, which is, the base bid was to provide the solid surface letters shown on the plans, and the alternate was to eliminate the letters and give us a credit, plus include a $10,000 allowance for graphic signage to replace the lettering. So the credit for bid alternate 7 was looks to me like $6,776. So when you add that to the $10,000 allowance, it's $16,776, not $75,000, I think is what is kind of floating around out there. So I just wanted to be able to address that. They were able to kind of pull the documents on that. We've had quite a few people ask about it, records request about it, and things like that. So I just thought it'd be easier to try to dig into it and figure out kind of where that was coming from. So I just wanted to make sure the board had that information as we work through it. So other items, any other questions related to construction or the special education report?
Maria.
Just a quick overall, you usually give an overall update on construction. I know we're kind of in the final stages. They're wrapping up. You're reconciling all of the bills to the change orders and kind of dialing in the last number. The last meeting you indicated we'd probably be coming in under budget. Is that where we're still sitting? What's your sense at this point?
I don't know, Bonnie, if you have a better sense.
I would say we're definitely within budget. I'm not sure where we'll be under budget, but there's a couple outstanding items that we're dealing with in the schools, but we're definitely within the budget. We've not exhausted all of our contingency funds.
Okay, thank you.
No other questions for that? We can move on to topics for discussion and or possible action. Start with approval of the October regular meeting minutes.
No, just the consent.
The consent items, excuse me.
Mr. President, I move approval of the consent items and that the Chief Financial and Operations Officer be authorized to pay bills in the amount of $2,758,216.96.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Second from Megan. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes.
Mr. President, if I may, we have a retirement that I wanted to speak to.
Very good. You always surprise me with that.
Yep, sorry. There's a special employee I want to recognize, Isabel Barr, a special ed para for 38 years at North Hudson, and she'll be retiring. So just wanted to recognize her, and we'll certainly be planning to celebrate her more at the upcoming recognition banquet in May.
So 38 years. So Scott, how many years do you have?
So
you're not the longest tenured teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, well, okay. Thank you, Andrea. Moving on to, we had long-term debt finance?
Yep, that'd be Brian. That'll be Bonnie.
That'll be Bonnie as well?
Yep, so we have been reviewing with Baird our long-term debt. And I think most of you know, this is Brian Brewer from Baird. Some of our bonds have become callable, so he has a scenario where we could refinance those bonds with a savings of about $2 million. Just to recognize that savings has to stay in debt service. We can't use that for operating costs, but it would be a savings to the tax levy long term. So Brian's gonna go over that and answer any questions you have.
Yep,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
being here.
Good evening, good to see the board. As Bonnie summarized, the market interest rates have moved lower than when we originally financed some of the prior referendum debt authorization. Specifically, what we're looking at tonight is from the 2016 referendum debt. And Tim, if we can move to the chart, one more, yeah. So this chart is the one I've utilized with the board for each time I've come and presented to you. The bottom is the 30-year history, so it just gives you an idea of how rates move year in and year out. It gives a little perspective of where we are today relative to where we were when you financed prior debt authorizations. I've worked with the district since 2000, and we've financed a few new referendums and refinanced more. With this refinancing, just since the great financial crisis, this will be the fourth refinancing, which would, if the savings stays at the 2.6-ish million estimate, it would put the total savings around $4.5 million, reducing what was already locked in. And as Bonnie mentioned, this is within your Fund 39, so I know it's a fund, but that's the one that's specific to principal and interest repayment. So it reduces the tax rate to pay back the debt, so that it can't be transferred to the general fund, Fund 10, to help elsewhere in the budget, but it does reduce the tax burden related to the debt repayments. So if you look at this chart, when you issued in 2016 and 2017 was the second and final portion, it was very, very favorable as well. So the only real reason we're able to bring an opportunity to refinance is in that upper right corner. You see that kind of mid-year rates moved higher, but in the last few months, interest rates, especially that gray and purple line, have come down. So if you think about it, we're 10 years into a 20-year payback, and so you're effectively replacing the second 10 years from 2016 with the first 10 years in 2025. So because the gray, which is a 5-year index rate, and the purple, which is a 10-year, because those are coming down, that's what's generating the savings. So you're replacing the old higher interest rate with new lower interest rates, and that's where the interest cost savings is coming from. So if we flip to the next page, this I might need you to zoom a little bit here. This is the detail page. This is what Bonnie, Nick, and Dave and I work through and kind of look at in terms of how do we want to set up the future levies in Fund 39 to manage future tax years, or at least how it would impact future tax years. So the way the page is oriented, the left side of the page is the existing rates on the 2016 borrow. So you see 4% primarily, and there's 3% in there. We're leaving the 3% because right now that one doesn't generate enough savings, but we're replacing the 3.5% and 4% interest rates with current rates that are in the 2 to 3 range. And so that is what generates that yellow column towards the right, which it says potential debt service savings. Ultimately, that adds up towards the bottom at that approximately $2.6 million of future levy reduction during the remaining 10 years. Along with that, the board has levied to make additional payments on debt to kind of stabilize the levies for debt. And this is an example of how to utilize those dollars. You'll notice that we're using some in 2027, so a year from now. When we did the final financing in 2017 related to the 2016 referendum, we had a 10-year maturity that we put there to keep the interest costs lower, knowing that in the next 10 years we were going to do something with it. Either we're going to prepay little by little, or we're going to refinance it 10 years later and stretch it out the final 10 years. Because of the ongoing mill rate and levy management, you have funds to make a payment on that maturity and avoid the interest cost. So by not needing to borrow for that next year, you're avoiding another $500,000 to $600,000 over the 10 years. So that helps the total. It doesn't really show up in the 2.6 that we're talking about today, but it's as part of the overall planning, it results in interest cost avoidance. Ultimately, the far right column is what we're targeting for future levies related to Fund 39 payments. So this year, the levy was $8.9 million. For the next 5 years, the estimate's $6.9 million. So we have a $2 million planned step down. Then you keep those payments level. And then in 2032 to 2036, there's another $900,000 step down. And then once the 2016 referendum debt is paid in full in 2036, there's another step down to 3.2. So we're basically creating a future step down in the levies related to Fund 39. So the next page shows it as a picture. which might be easier to consume than this busy slide that I have here. So the gray bars are how it is currently scheduled, and the blue bars are what this illustration is showing in terms of stepping down. So it gives some future levy flexibility, you know, as we go into the second year of the biennial budget, which is, as you know, does not change really from what you were managing for this year. So there's not additional state aid put into the statewide pot. So as it gets redistributed around the state, you know, we'll have to see how Hudson's numbers stack up with every other school district, but there's not new dollars to redistribute. So this gives you a little bit of cushion heading into 26, 27 on the total tax levy. So the discussion is tonight. I wanted to present, you know, the concept, the estimated savings at this point. Obviously, savings are not finalized until we go into the market and sell it to investors. But tonight is a discussion, and then on the 24th, you would have an action item at that board meeting to establish parameters for going to sell and lock in with investors. You know, once paperwork is ready, Bonnie and I and Dave and I think maybe Nick are on a rating call later this week for credit rating. And that would be, currently the district is rated AA1 by Moody's, which is the second highest they offer. We've asked what it takes to get to AAA, and you know, some of the answers are things that I think Hudson residents and community members don't really want in their backyard. They would like larger industrial base and, you know, manufacturing in the communities, and that's, you know, being AA1 allows most investors in the market to buy the bonds that the school district offers. So it's a very, very strong credit rating. So that's part of the process in getting the district ready to access the market and lock in new lower interest rates.
Brian, do you know how many districts about have a higher bond rating than we do, approximately?
2.
Out of the 400 and some in the state?
Out of the 421.
Okay.
I think it's 2 that's currently at AAA.
Okay.
And there's not that many at the AA1. I don't know the exact number, but it's probably like 12-ish, 12 to 13. So it's hard in Wisconsin because your budget, your funding is not decided at the board level. It's decided at the state level, at the per pupil funding level, and then the local level is how do you balance that budget from the revenues and expenses.
I have a question. I just want to use the word defeasance. Is this defeasance?
This is refinance.
Is it similar? It just can't be defeasance because we're not corporate. We're not a.
No.
Okay.
So the difference in my mind, I use that word a lot.
I just wanted to use it. So.
No, it's a great. So the technical difference I use is we are able to pay off. Like when you borrow new at lower rates, we are going to turn around and pay it to the investor, like the old holders of the bonds. So it's immediate, like within 90 days. A defeasance, whether it's a bond defeasance or a cash defeasance, in my mind involves an escrow period. So where there's a couple of years until you can pay off the old bondholders. So you're borrowing new or you're taking cash, putting it into an escrow, and the escrow agent will then pay it out at a future date. So it's similar, but this, because of the timing, this is more like you're replacing the old with the new immediately.
So it's kind of like if you're a homeowner, you're refinancing, you're paying off a little bit?
In this case, in this one in particular, it's exactly like that.
For a lower rate.
Yeah, the only difference is you had to wait until 2026. So March 1 of 2026 was the first eligible date. Okay. So the fact that interest rates are moving down as you're approaching that date is what's creating the ability. Whereas a homeowner, it's, you know, anytime the market is low enough to generate enough savings to pay the closing costs.
And everything we're refinancing is a capital item because it's Fund 39, a capital item that we purchased.
Correct, yes.
Capital fund.
Megan?
So This is out of my wheelhouse, but, so just to make sure I understand, it was originally a $72.375 million bonds that were from July of 2016, and we're refinancing $39.765 million at this lower interest rate, which is gonna save us
2.6.
Okay, at the bottom, 2.685 million over the next 10 years.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's great.
And just to clarify, we're not lengthening the term. We're, you know, the term is the same amount of time. It's just, I think the thing that's a little different for us, when you take out a mortgage, you have one mortgage for the whole 20 years or 30 years. For us, when we go to bonds, we buy a 1-year bond, a 2-year bond, a 3-year bond, a 4-year bond, and we pay interest on that bond until it's due. And then we pay it, you know, in whatever year it is that they come due. And I think, so we're basically taking bonds that were set up in years 11 through 20, and we're making them more like years 1 through 10. So that obviously a shorter term makes for a lower rate. And that lower rate is the savings, which in essence will help us, you know, drop debt service mill rate, because the savings is purely taxpayer savings. It's not, it doesn't go anywhere in the school district. It can't be used to offset anything else.
Marie, no?
Nick explained what I was gonna ask about the tax savings and how that functions, so thank you, Nick.
Brian?
Yeah, and just to point out, sometimes I get tripped up on this. You know, we try and think about these things as like our mortgages. We would refinance when rates get really low, but you touched on it a little bit. The reason we didn't refinance in 2020 and 2021 is that we could not at that time with these bonds.
Correct. Federal tax law back in 2017, that Tax Cuts and Jobs Act back then removed the ability to refinance prior to the March 1 of 2026 date. So you had to wait until 90 days prior and hope that interest rates are low enough to generate savings. And I do want to point out, like back in 16, the rates weren't very high. Like you financed that originally well below what the board communicated at that time. I think it ended up being about 16 million less in total interest costs from because we were trying to be conservative and rates were lower. So the fact you're generating any savings at this point, you know, it's more about replacing years 11 through 20 with years 1 through 10. So it's shorter rates, which are lower, which, you know, is what's generating the actual interest reduction.
Mr. President, I just wanted to say the bar graph on page 5 was very helpful in helping me understand this. It's great use of a bar graph. I appreciate it.
Especially coming after the previous page.
Yeah.
This one.
Yes.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Have a good
news.
evening.
Yeah,
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah. Next topic is the 26-27 school calendar, and can we do better than I guess I did this year? Because I'm sure Jamie is laughing right now that we're at a board meeting when the Packer game will be starting. He would have never allowed that.
Talk about that today. Okay, so what we have linked, 2 weeks ago, I presented to the board the draft for the 26-27 calendar, and since then, we made one small tweak that I'd like to just point out to you, one change. We changed the floating 7.5 hours of professional development. We changed that to an in-person professional development day on the 19th. So essentially, teachers are coming back 1 day sooner than what I had presented 2 weeks ago. And that's pretty much in response to some of the rounding and some of the feedback we've received from staff regarding moving from 6 elementary schools to 4 and kind of needing a little bit more time with those teams, with leadership teams, PBIS teams, and we did run that by principals, and middle school and high school principals also are excited to have an extra full day to kind of tackle some of their larger professional development needs. So other than that, the rest of the calendar is the same as what you saw 2 weeks ago, and administration is recommending approval of the 26-27 calendar.
Does anyone have a question?
Mr. President, I just wanted to let you know I've heard really positive feedback about the calendar in general and from teachers and principals. And I said maybe that's because Shannon was just there. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions. To ask for a motion to approve.
Mr. President, make
Yes,
a
ma'am.
motion to approve this this school calendar for year 2026, 2027.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Megan. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Next is, we're moving to a boundary update discussion. Overnight travel, sorry.
And that's me again. So that was, again, I brought this 2 weeks ago in the work session, the overnight travel, and if you remember that overnight travel is utilized and scheduled when activities and athletics are scheduled for long distance, far away. So again, administration is recommending approval of the overnight travel.
Okay, with no changes, we want to make a motion to accept that?
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the travel.
Thank you, Aaron. Do I have a second?
Second.
Molly? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next would be school closure and transitioning planning with Nick. Start us off.
Yep, no problem. I'm gonna touch on a couple things, and then I have a guest here.
Mr.
because the-
President, don't we have to approve the meeting minutes first before we get into that?
That was in the consent
Oh,
agenda.
that was part of that?
Yep.
That's in the consent agenda.
Okay. But we didn't do that, did we? No, we didn't.
We voted for the consent. It's all.
Oh, we did it all at once?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So, yep. Yeah, all of the things listed under the consent agenda, that's why they're in the consent agenda. This hasn't changed. This is.
I guess I was confused too because 4K was in there in the contract, so I thought we may discuss it, but.
No,
all a lump.
so any new changes to 4K contracts, or if there's substantial changes, we would pull them out, and they would have their own item on the agenda to talk about, but since 4K is kind of a renewal contract that we do every year, that's why it goes in the consent agenda, as we continue to kind of work through it. Other questions about that before I move in? All right, so before, I'm gonna introduce Brian Zeller, because the board had asked me to have somebody talk to them about, or bring somebody in to talk to you guys about the buildings and opportunities and things like that. And so Brian is here to be able to do that. But before he gets into his commercial real estate presentation, just a couple of the boundary updates as we're working through with the consultants. We had a meeting with them last week as we get ready to kind of plan the boundary process and what that looks like. And it gave us preliminary information related to the enrollment analysis. We don't have their final numbers with them right now, but they will be presenting on December 8th their full enrollment analysis, which includes all of the development within the district and all those other different components, birth rates, all of those different components will all be tied to it. They did spend 2 days last week driving the district, making sure they understood where there is development, where there's development land that's available, and talking with different folks about that so they could take into account related to their enrollment projections. I can tell you that preliminarily they had shared with us that they anticipate that our elementary enrollment is going to kind of equalize at about somewhere between 1,700 and 1,800 students over the next 10 years, and that'll probably be our new normal. We're currently at 1,938, I think, in our elementaries. Our middle school, they're expecting that our middle school is going to equalize or hit that kind of point of equilibrium somewhere between that 850 and 950 range as we move forward. And then the high school somewhere probably between that 1,300 and 1,450. They're going to have more precise numbers to share at the December 8th meeting, but they would anticipate that over the next 10 years that our enrollment, taking into account birth rates, taking into account development, taking into account all those different components, that our resident enrollment is going to drop somewhere between 500 and 800 students over the next 10 years. So just kind of some background information as we continue to get the enrollment reports. Again, December 8th, so we haven't seen anything official from them. They just kind of started to kind of share some of the initial preliminary data as they look at it. They also look at our mobility rate, they look at our turnover rates, they look at the housing rates, all of those different components in order to come to the numbers. From what we could gather, they kind of anticipate that, you know, our new normal long-term equilibrium could be somewhere, you know, around that 300 student, give or take, per grade level. It's going to take longer for the high school to hit that, you know, 300 to 400. And the reason that is because we have our larger cohorts that are still working their way through the district. So that's kind of preliminarily what we have. And now I just want to make sure and give plenty of time for Brian Zeller. And I have Brian, you can have a seat at the table. You don't have to stand at the microphone. And Brian is here to kind of talk about options related to the buildings and answer questions for the board and share his expertise. So I'll kind of turn it over to Brian.
Am I on here?
Green is on.
All right, perfect. Brian Zeller, as Nick had indicated, I'm a principal with TELUS Property Services and Solutions. Have represented the district in the past when you acquired your former administration building, and represent you currently as we're working through the disposition of that. Have also worked with other districts and am currently working with Stillwater School District in the disposition of their Lake Elmo Elementary School. And had previously sold another elementary school for them. So kind of a wide range of experience through the years of doing commercial real estate here in the Valley, everything from former Nike military bases to hospitals to dog tracks to a little bit of everything. So this is definitely within my wheelhouse. So I did have an opportunity to evaluate your properties. I don't know what level of detail you'd like to go into now. I think some of it's maybe more appropriate in closed session as you contemplate strategies and asking prices and things of that nature. But wanted to make myself available after an introduction and field any questions that you might have.
Thanks for coming tonight. I appreciate it. You know, one of the buildings, Willow, is on the State Historic Registries. I'm wondering, could you tell us a little bit about what that means as we think about? I've done a little reading myself, but would love your perspective as you think about.
Candidly, sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes it's a bad thing. It can cause restrictions in terms of what type of renovation or retrofitting you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd want to dig a little deeper into the specifics of how it's registered and what the impacts of that are. But I personally think that building will be repurposed. I see it as probably a multi-tenant. One thing that the board will want to consider is if they want to put deed restrictions on one or both of the properties, preventing them from being a competitive use or a private school or a charter school or something of that nature. That's not uncommon. Stillwater is doing that with their current facility in Lake Elmo. We've done it for banks, for hospitals, for a little bit of everything. So that'll be something for you to consider. But I don't see it as a hurdle that we can't overcome, but definitely something they'll factor into the process. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Mr. President. On the other building, Holton, I got a question today, and I found it interesting. The person was asking about when what I guess was called the Holton School District, or whatever it was called in 1958 when it was absorbed into Hudson, about whether that property at that time had some sort of agreement or restriction on it that requires it to always be a school, or the property to only function as a school. And I don't expect you to know the answer to that today. I'm just curious from your Stillwater experience or otherwise, or Nick, if you happen to know anything about how that property became part of the Holton district.
I've run into that situation
Okay.
before when a beach property was actually donated to a city and it had those types of restrictions. We'd probably want to pull title and see if there's anything of record against that property. that would be the quickest and easiest way to know if there's any encumbrance.
My question would be with Willow, is there a difference in code or development? Like, we know to keep it as a school, if we make renovations in it, we're going to have to absorb a substantial cost for, fire suppression, sprinklers, boilers, what have you. If it's developed as a non-school, apartment or living, are the codes different where they can do individual heating units where they don't have to absorb those costs?
Generally
Or those
speaking,
codes?
yes. Yes, generally speaking. So a developer would evaluate the most efficient and effective way to divide utilities to the different units, depending on if that's mixed use or what it is. But I would suggest one of our first meetings would be with the city to talk about code and talk about use and zoning and density and kind of what they envision. I've had a very preliminary conversation with them just in my evaluation process, but we'll need to work closely with the city.
Mr. President?
Yes, Kate.
Can you talk about your experience in maybe other communities where they've had something similar happening, and what the process was, how long it took, or how long, in your professional opinion, something like that might take?
Sure. I think I'll probably speak mostly to Washington County or Stillwater, just that's where we're currently negotiating. The market as a whole right now, there's not a lot of inventory, so it's really an interesting market in that prices are a little elevated. There aren't as many opportunities. The entitlement process is taking longer and longer these days, so renovations are becoming more attractive to developers. So with that said, in Lake Elmo, that community has a directive from that council to grow at a certain rate and a certain number of units. So the fact that this is a fairly large parcel in the middle of Lake Elmo with city sewer and water makes it pretty attractive. I would make similar comments about Willow, given the size of that structure and the fact that sewer and water is there, assuming that that the city's receptive to, a mixed use or a higher density residential, that's gonna be an attractive project. Holton is gonna be attractive for other reasons. Its proximity to, the major intersection and the highway that comes through there, it being the first stop off of the Hudson exit. I think you're also gonna have a pretty high level of interest. So both of those opportunities within 6 months, we found we procured a buyer. So those, I wasn't sure what to expect in the first elementary school because it was north, it didn't have sewer and water, but we found a buyer right away on that one.
Mr. President?
Yes, Molly.
So you have been through this process before with other districts. What sort of buyers do you generally see? I mean, is there a typical buyer, or is it just, what's the gamut maybe then?
I'll receive phone calls from you can only imagine. We never really know until the end of the day if it's a real scenario or not. I can tell you most recently I received a call from a group wanting to do a funeral home and an event center. It just, you never know. And my philosophy is I show it to everybody. I don't really try to pre-qualify them because I don't know who they're connected to or what other relationships they might have. So I show it to everybody, and then ultimately I bring the prospects to you, and it's for you to decide who's the best fit. But it'll literally be everybody you can imagine that I'll field a phone call from.
When you say it's up to us, it's really is still controlled by the city or the municipality to some extent.
For zoning, yeah. As long as we wouldn't want to enter an agreement with anybody that, had an outlandish plan that we knew wasn't going to be approved by the city anyways. But yeah, the city's gonna have significant influence in what can go there and ultimately what type of project and who the buyer might be.
There has been some concern noted in the community about could they be demolished? And, you know, we've heard about the cost for I mean, that's not something you would expect we would see a developer come in and say.
I wouldn't recommend it, no. I mean, you're gonna get in, what I might recommend is that you do an initial study for hazardous materials, so that that's something that could be disclosed. It's likely that every buyer that comes through the door is gonna wanna know if there's any hazardous materials that they have to deal with. That can just be a preliminary study that you contract somebody to do for you, but no, I would not recommend demolition. I think both of those properties will be repurposed. Meg?
I don't know if this is a question for you, Brian, or for Nick, but could you go through what our process is? I know we probably put together a asking price, and then we ask to see what the plans will be, you know, just how, without saying anything that would be an issue of closed session, but how do we do this as a board once we decide to list the properties? How does
Sure.
that go?
Generally speaking, you know, we have a listing agreement. Mine are a little unusual in that I give you the ability to cancel that agreement with 30 days notice at any time during the term of that agreement. But once you list with us, then we get to work quickly and get our marketing assembled, and we get you online in the system. I focus on the commercial sites, Crexy, Mincar, the two that I'm the most favorable for. And we put the property out there, we make it available. And then as inquiries come forward, I try to communicate that with Nick, just so that he can be aware of what's happening, if we're making progress, not making progress. I'm available at any time, you know, for questions or comments from the board. But then we're really in a responding mode, if you will. We see who's interested, what's on their mind, what their thoughts are, communication with the city to see if it's at all feasible, if it's a fit, not a fit. And then ultimately, you know, we hope to bring you probably start with a letter of intent, and then into a purchase agreement.
Are there times where municipalities purchase, or is it more residential apartment?
I would say it's happened. It hasn't happened to me, but I'm certainly aware that it has happened. I think the city, at least, well, I think the township and the city. The township just built a new city hall. That's the only thing I could imagine that they might have needed. And then the city has just recently acquired, you know, 3 or 4 properties in town, so I think their needs are met. So I don't think it would occur in either instance, but it's possible, and or the county.
Any other questions? Anyone? Okay. Well, thank you, Brian. Appreciate you coming. Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. Just kind of review a couple of other items related to school closures, transition planning. We actually had our first staff forum this morning. And what we do, you know, we're kind of working through the staffing timelines and things along those lines. I'm going to turn it over to Andrea and Shannon and Tara, kind of go through that.
In terms of the staffing timeline, so we laid out this for staff, and we'll continue to do it at the building forums, laying everything out between October and then summer 2026, with some key periods being right now with the building forums, going out and talking about our guiding principles of how we're going to make decisions for staffing next year. And then December, the beginning of December is when we're going to be sending out the staffing survey. So we're working collaboratively with the different committees. We have 2 committees, the support staff staffing committee and then the certified staff staffing committee. Both committees are going to work on the staffing survey, again, going out in December, with the final determinations prior to spring break for certified staff, and then in April sometime for support staff. So trying to be very transparent with the steps that we're taking through the timeline over the next 6 to 9 months. And then also pivoting to the guidelines the guiding principles for staffing decisions. We detail them out in the document that we're sharing with staff, but it's robust, certified, and support staff staffing processes, building teams to support educational excellence and optimize staffing resources to ensure long-term efficiency and consistency across the district, collaboration, respect, long-term sustainability, and legal compliance. And then we have bullet points throughout all of those to really get to how we want to work together collaboratively, not only within the staffing committees, but also hearing feedback from staff throughout the process. And again, we're trying to be very transparent with this communication and have utilized TAC, and I'm sure we'll come back here on a regular basis sharing additional information with you guys as we're moving forward.
Okay.
I just want, because I know acronyms are a thing and it takes a while to get used to, but just so people watching or people here know, it's the TAC is the Teacher Advisory Committee.
Yes.
So that people know we are involving them in this process.
We definitely are, and we have a meeting end of January as well that's already scheduled, and then we had one prior to the determination. So we're getting feedback on what questions they wanted to have us ask for the staffing survey. So we're at an important point through this is that we really have two parallel processes. It's the layoff process, where yes, we have to reduce some positions, K-12, but then there's also the staffing process. The staffing process of where we find places for our remaining teachers has been something we've done since I've been here. And it's a pretty robust system where we look at team composition. We look at a lot of different factors to find, again, the best places and hopefully the best teams for our students.
Okay.
So I know this isn't popular or fun to talk about, but I think it's important to hear from the board, and I'm speaking for myself, but with layoffs, I guess my hope would be that we're looking at really high achieving teachers as people who we want to be in our school district, and maybe some people who are struggling or it doesn't seem like this is the right fit, that those people would maybe follow a different route. But I do, as a board member, expect that those high achievers are staying with us.
And I have great confidence that that's going to be the case. I think our layoff language, which we refined last year, the first criteria is probationary employees, certainly attrition, so retirements, because we always have lots of those, I mean, several every year. And then we go to probationary staff who are not yet effective in all 6 standards, which is our evaluation system. So that is applicable before we ever get to our veteran staff members. And then we have criteria from there. That if we even need to go there, then we spell out if it's a significant discipline or current performance improvement plan, significant discipline within the last 3 years, or current performance improvement plan, then that's the next criteria we look at. And so we kind of have that laid out in that manner. But again, I think if you look at our hiring any particular year, we hire 30 to 50 certified staff members. And like classroom teachers, the tentative numbers we were looking at was around 7 classroom teachers. And so between all those pieces, I would think it's unlikely that we would go beyond that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. President? Looking at the calendar we just approved a little bit ago, there's a lot of professional development days in August. And I'd imagine those will be used for team building and getting classrooms set up and or something along those lines. I don't have the calendar in front of me, but do we have professional development days after staffing decisions will be made this year, you know, left in this school year, where we'll be bringing new staff together? How?
We talked about it some, and I think at this point we're still trying to figure out the right balance, and certainly Shannon, you can speak. I don't mean to overstep, but I think it's a conversation we're having.
Yeah, we're doing rounding right now from the teaching and learning department, so we're getting different ideas and different thoughts behind that. Some are feeling like, as soon as I know my team, I want to get together with my team, and I want to get together. Others are feeling like, you know, let us finish the year at Willow River, or let us finish out our school year and let us just process one thing at a time. And then once the year is done, so we're still working through doing a good job for everybody on that.
Thank you.
All right, open houses. I don't know if Shannon, you want to speak to that?
I can speak to that too. Talked a little bit about this already, but we have open houses for parents next Monday and Tuesday. So Monday the 17th, the open houses are at North Hudson and Prairie. And on Tuesday, they will be at EP Rock and Rivercrest. And this is in response to parents reaching out and saying, hey, we're going to be moving buildings, or we might be moving buildings. And we've never stepped foot into any other building besides my own. So we created these open houses for parents to come in and get a look at the buildings. Because we've staggered them, they can go look at all of them. And so our hope is that to get families in, we have principals set up to talk about, you know, their building 5 minutes at the beginning, and then just open house style, get a look at the rooms. And we have between 15 and 20 staff at every building that are volunteering to be there and answer questions too.
Any questions about the open houses? We know that people don't have assignments yet, but we want to give people an opportunity that if they wanted to see the buildings, they could go in and see the buildings. The last thing is just a work group update. It's not going to go through the transition plan up there, but we're continually working through that. They've started to meet. We're going to be having opportunities in some of the work groups at different times to involve parents, to involve staff, a variety of different components. There's a lot of moving parts, obviously, related to all of these different components, but we will continually give you updates related to work groups and things like that. Right now, trying to get some of the staffing things on the books and the timelines out, because that's one of the things that staff have asked us, you know, most currently, what does that look like? And then as we get, you know, the boundary information and things along those lines, we'll be passing that information out to the board as well, so, and to the community. So any other questions related to school closure transition planning?
Mr. President? Is there any opportunity, Nick, for board members to participate in these work groups? I noticed there's 6 work groups.
Yeah, I think there'll be some opportunities at different times for board members to participate. Yep. It's just, you know, if board members want to reach out and they say, hey, I'm really interested in this area or that area and want to be a part of it, yeah, we can work through that and let you know when those work groups will be meeting and what that looks like. And, you know, I think the piece people have to understand is within the work groups, there's going to be times where, like, for example, this student and family engagement work group, there's going to be times when that's going to involve parents and staff and principals. There's going to be other times when that's going to be a smaller group of people that are going to be working through some logistics and things along those lines. And so a lot of it is just going to be, you know, what your preference is as far as wanting to be involved, see what's going on.
I think once we involve the community in those, that would be really important.
Absolutely.
To have a board member in each of those groups, just to really gain that perspective, to bring it back to the board, it'd be really nice.
Absolutely.
I don't want to put words in Molly's mouth, but we had talked about the parent group involved with our committee for special education, since that's we've had a lot of questions about how this is going to affect special education. So I hope we have a robust. I don't know, Molly, if you wanted to add to that, or.
I don't have a lot to add, but just Megan and I both have spoken with a member of the community who is a special ed advocate, and feel like this is an opportunity for us to have like a parent advisory group that perhaps, depending on how it goes, that something could be ongoing in order to maybe like talk about unmet needs, or trying to think of some of the other things that we talked about. Help improve outcomes, help share development of programs and services, policy, that kind of thing. Not that the parents wouldn't have the decision-making role, but just sort of a collective exchange of ideas. So I think someone will be probably reaching out to you, Kara. So thank you very much. I appreciate the care that you take.
Mr. President?
Yes, Brian?
Maybe I missed this, but Nick, could you talk a little bit about timeline for the work groups that will have community involvement? When will we send out notice, or how will they be able to sign up? Some of those pieces.
Well, as we kind of get those up and moving, you know, I can tell you for the boundary groups, we will be getting feedback. We have boundary meetings set. I believe, I don't know if Tracy, we got them on the website yet, but it'll be January 13th and January 27th. The goal is, you know, the consultants will be working with the board on December 8th, both to present the enrollment analysis, but then also to talk with the board for some guiding principles as it relates to boundaries and how you want those kind of crafted and things to keep in mind. So there'll be a large opportunity for the community to be involved at that point with the boundary piece, as well as not just in-person, face-to-face meetings, those two meetings, but there's also some survey feedback as well with the different boundary options that will be proposed. And as far as the other work groups, family experiences and student experiences, those are coming. We're not far enough along to be able to say this is when these meetings will happen. But I know in talking with the different groups, you know, making sure we're involving the PTOs of all the different buildings and, you know, what that looks like, as well as looking for other parent volunteers to be able to help make sure it's a successful transition for both our kids, our family, and our staff. So there'll be more to come, and as those groups get set up, we'll get rolling on it.
Nick, you know, we have the, am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, we have the tab on the Hudson Raiders webpage,
Mhm.
so that I know we have the open houses on there. Will we have, as we kind of go along, I think, I would, as a parent, would want to know that we're having meetings in January, so I can get those on the calendar, because people are planning trips and family stuff. So can we put some tentative dates out on a calendar, just so people can kind of plan?
I think so.
Yeah. They're not on there yet, but they'll go on there once.
Those are
So
two
you
firm
just kind of
dates.
throw
Yeah.
things on as they get sort of more finalized. And then, so will you have a link on here for, because I know you can ask questions, and will there be a way to sign up or get your name in the mix if you want to, or is it just a show up thing?
I would guess part of that is dependent on, like Nick was talking about, each of these groups. There are planning folks in charge of those, and ultimately those groups will decide how they bring in other.
Okay, so that part is just basically not finalized yet, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President.
Karen?
Nick, where were those meetings? Where are we planning on having those at? The one January 13th?
The January 13th
the
and
boundary?
27th will be at the middle school, where we've had them in the past. And the consultants from MGT will be running those meetings.
Great. Just one comment, quick, kind of towards Tracy's direction. As we were talking about the communications and the different groups and stuff, it was just something neat that some of us board members were at the WASB meeting earlier this month, and it was really neat. They had a showing displaying public schools, and it would be really cool to have some sort of a video on the 4 elementary schools and just showcasing how cool they are. I just thought it was really impactful to see that.
You can do like a video walkthrough of the space kind of thing.
Yeah,
too,
just
so-
kind of like the video that they showed there.
So people don't have to technically tour the space if they're.
They have an example on their website of that exact one. I was like, that would be so cool if we did that for the 4 schools here. I think it would really help.
Yeah, we can look at putting together kind of a new updated district video. Absolutely.
Any other questions? That takes us to the end of our public agenda, and I'll accept a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. President.
Okay.
The board will entertain a motion to convene in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85, Parent 1, Parent E, to deliberate or negotiate the sale of public properties whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require.
Second.
Second from Molly. All those in favor, do a roll.
Mr.
call.
President?
Oh, yeah.
Could I just, there's been some confusion in the community about what these closed meetings about properties have been. And I just want to say out loud, it hasn't been about Holton or Willow. We would say that. These are about other property. Nick, maybe you want to say as much as you can say about what this discussion's about, just so we have some clarity.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been no discussions in closed session at all about Holton or Willow up to this point. The valuations of the properties in what Brian was alluding to earlier would be, for Willow and Holton, would be what he'd be sharing with you guys so that you could make a determination of how you would want to at least price things if you're wanting to sell these properties and things like that from a competitive bidding purpose. But you wouldn't actually make the decision in closed session to sell these properties or anything like that. It's just giving you some market analysis so that since you'll be setting up how you want to handle the bargaining related to the sale of properties potentially down the road.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just
Yep.
want to avoid confusion
Yep.
that's in the public. We wouldn't ever make that, any type of that decision in private session.
Correct.
Very good. No other questions. Take a roll call. Dahl?
Aye.
Garza?
Aye.
Gerlach? Powers?
Aye.
Rozowski?
Aye.
Rudy?
Aye.
Bauman, aye. We are now in closed session. 5-minute break is fine.
5 minutes.